The glass exploded against his skull with a sound I'll never forget. A dry crack, followed by silence. The people around froze, their laughter dying in their throats, as the body collapsed on the reception floor, staining the white carpet red. I was still holding the broken bottleneck, my hand trembling, my suit splattered with wine and blood. It was my sister's wedding, the happiest day of her life, and I had just killed the groom in front of all the guests. But if you knew what I discovered minutes before, what that monster had done, maybe you'd understand why I couldn't stop. Because at that moment, the only thing that mattered was making him pay. My name is Carlos. I'm 25 years old now, and I'm telling this story from my apartment, a small, quiet place where I try to rebuild something that resembles a life. I spent the last 3.5 years behind bars. 3.5 years paying for killing a man on my sister's wedding day in front of 200 people. To the world, to the judges, to the media that covered the case, I'm just another violent criminal, a possessive brother who lost his mind, a murderer who destroyed the most important day of his own sister's life. But they don't know anything. Nobody knows what I saw in that bathroom. Nobody knows what that man, the perfect groom, the dream son-in-law, had done, what he had forced my own brother to do. And when I discovered it, when all the pieces fit together in my head in a matter of seconds, there was no room left to think. Only fury remained. I know you're probably judging me right now. I know first impressions are hard to change, but I ask one thing. Suspend your judgment until the end of this story, until you understand exactly what happened that day, what that monster planned, what he did to my family. And then, only then can you decide if I'm the villain of this story, because I'm not sure. Sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night sweating, reliving the sound of that glass breaking against his skull, I also don't know if I did the right thing. But I know one thing. If I could go back in time seeing everything I saw, knowing everything I know, I would do it again without hesitation. If you're really paying attention to me, if you're really following my story so far, I need to ask you something. Like this video now. Subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any story, and comment down below where you're watching from. That's the only way I know you're with me, that you really want to understand what happened, because what comes next will completely change your perspective on all of this. This story begins years before that day. It begins in my childhood with 3 children who should have grown up protecting each other, but who ended up trapped in a web of manipulation and hatred that none of us understood. And the worst part is that the architect of this destruction was there all along, waiting for the perfect moment to execute his revenge. Emily, Rodrigo, and I were born a few years apart. I'm the middle child. Emily is 2 years older. Rodrigo, 3 years younger. We grew up in a middle-class home in Seattle, children of an accountant and a history teacher. Nothing too special. Nothing too bad. A normal childhood, you know. Silly fights between siblings, family dinner every Sunday, beach vacations when we could afford it. Emily was always the smart one, the responsible one, the one who got good grades, who helped mom around the house, who never caused trouble. I was the middle child, the forgettable one, the one who went unnoticed. I wasn't bad or good at anything specific. I was just there. And Rodrigo, well, the youngest, was the baby of the family, protected, spoiled, the one everyone overlooked when he did something stupid because he was just a kid. But we were close, or at least I thought we were. Emily and I always had a special connection. She told me things she didn't tell our parents, her dreams, her insecurities, her fears. When she was 15 and I was 13, she told me for the first time about Rafael, a boy from her school, 2 years older, who had started stalking her. At first, it was just strange looks, uncomfortable comments in the hallways. Then came the messages, hundreds of them, obsessive. He said he loved her, that they were destined to be together, that no one else could have her. Emily blocked him everywhere. She told the school administration. Rafael's father was called in. There was a formal warning, and apparently the case was resolved. But I remember her expression when she came back from the meeting at school. She didn't look relieved. She looked scared. He looked at me in a way, Carlos, she told me that night, sitting on the edge of my bed, like I had done something terrible to him, like I was going to pay for it. I was 13 years old. I didn't know what to say. So I just held her hand and said I was there, that nothing would happen to her. What an idiotic promise. The months passed and Rafael really stopped stalking her. He changed schools the following year, and Emily seemed to relax. Life returned to normal. She finished high school, entered architecture school, started dating other guys. Nothing serious until she was 21 when she met Tiago. Tiago was everything a guy could be on paper. Handsome, successful, charming. He worked at a tech company, made good money, treated Emily like a princess. My parents loved him. Rodrigo thought he was cool, and I wanted to like him. I really wanted to. But there was always something that bothered me, something I couldn't put my finger on. The way he looked at Emily sometimes, as if he were studying her, analyzing. And there were moments when he made strange comments about her past, about things she had never mentioned publicly. When I asked how he knew, he always laughed and said Emily had told him, but her expression, she looked confused, as if she didn't remember telling him that. But I didn't say anything, because who was I to ruin my sister's happiness? She was radiant, happier than I had ever seen her, and Tiago really seemed dedicated to her. 2 years after they started dating, he proposed to her at a romantic dinner by the water. She said yes, crying with joy. The wedding preparations took a year. Emily planned every detail obsessively. The perfect dress, the perfect catering, the perfect decoration. She wanted that day to be unforgettable. And it was, just for absolutely the wrong reasons. Rodrigo was acting strange at that time. He was 19 years old and was becoming increasingly withdrawn. He dropped out of college in the second semester, saying it wasn't for him. He started spending more and more time locked in his room. When I tried to talk to him, he would look away and mumble monosyllabic answers. My parents thought it was a phase, that he was finding himself, but I noticed other things. The dark circles under his eyes, the way he flinched when the phone rang, how he avoided being in the same room as Tiago when he came for dinner at our house. Once, about 3 months before the wedding, I caught him alone in the kitchen late at night. He was shaking, looking at his phone with an expression of absolute panic. "Rodrigo? What's going on?" I asked, touching his shoulder. He almost jumped in fright, immediately hiding his phone. "Nothing," he said too quickly. "Nothing. I just can't sleep." "You can talk to me, bro. If something's wrong, nothing's wrong," he practically shouted, then composed himself, lowering his voice. "Sorry, I'm just tired. That's all." He left the kitchen in a hurry, leaving me there alone with a strange weight in my chest. I should have insisted, should have forced him to talk to me, but I didn't. And that will be one of the biggest guilts I'll carry for the rest of my life. The wedding day arrived on a sunny Saturday in March. The ceremony would be at a beautiful estate on the outskirts of the city, with an outdoor reception under a sky of lights. 200 guests, live music, an event worthy of a magazine. Emily was impeccable in her wedding dress, a mermaid-style French lace gown she had personally chosen at a boutique in New York. She was nervous but radiant. This was her day. The ceremony went beautifully. Tiago cried when he saw her walking in. The vows were touching. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," everyone applauded and cheered. My parents were in tears of happiness. Everything seemed perfect. The reception began and the party was lively. Good drinks, excellent food, perfect music. I was on my 3rd glass of champagne when I noticed Rodrigo had disappeared. I looked around and didn't see him anywhere. This was strange. He was the bride's brother. He should be there participating. I decided to look for him. I walked past the dance floor, past the tables, past the bar. Nothing. Then I thought maybe he had gone to the bathroom. There was a larger bathroom near the main reception hall, and I started walking in that direction. That's when I heard a muffled sound, almost imperceptible over the music from the party, but I heard it because I was paying attention. A sound of struggle, of someone trying to fight back, coming from the women's bathroom, not the men's. My heart raced. Something was wrong, very wrong. I walked to the door of the women's bathroom and hesitated for a second. Then I pushed slowly. What I saw will haunt me until the day I die. Emily was leaning against the sink, her wedding dress disheveled, and Rodrigo was there, completely destroyed, tears streaming down his face. The scene I was seeing I couldn't process. This couldn't be happening. Not with Emily, not with Rodrigo, not with my siblings. "What the hell is this?" I shouted, my voice echoing off the bathroom walls. Rodrigo jumped back as if he'd been shocked. Emily turned around, her face red with shame and horror, desperately pulling the dress down. And what I saw on both their faces wasn't guilt, it was panic, absolute terror. "Carlos, I can explain," Rodrigo began, his voice breaking, but I was already advancing on him. I grabbed him by the collar and threw him against the wall with all the force I had. "Are you crazy? She's our sister, Rodrigo." "I know," he shouted back, and he was crying like a child. "I know, Carlos, I know, I didn't want to. I swear I didn't want to." "Didn't want to? Then what the hell were you doing?" Emily was sobbing behind me, trying to fix her dress with trembling hands. "Carlos, stop," she said between sobs. "Stop, please, leave him alone. Leave him, Emily. He was... I couldn't finish the sentence. My throat closed up. I let go of Rodrigo and he collapsed to the floor, huddled, hiding his face in his hands. "You don't understand," he murmured. "You don't understand anything." "Then explain to me," I yelled. "Explain what the hell is happening here." That's when I heard the voice behind me. Calm, cold, amused. "She looks beautiful in a wedding dress, doesn't she?" I turned around and there was Tiago, the groom, standing in the bathroom doorway with a smile on his face. A smile that made me freeze inside. It wasn't a smile of surprise or confusion or anger. It was a smile of satisfaction, of someone who had just watched exactly what they wanted to watch. "Tiago," Emily whispered, her voice full of despair. "Tiago, I can explain. This isn't what it looks like." "It isn't?" he said, still smiling. "Because to me it looked exactly like what we agreed on, Rodrigo." And it was at that moment that everything clicked in my head. Rodrigo's strange behavior, the panic, the dark circles, the way he avoided Tiago. I looked at my youngest brother there on the floor, destroyed, and understood. "You," I said, my voice coming out hoarse. "You made him do this." Tiago's smile only grew. "I didn't do anything," he said calmly. "Rodrigo made his own choices. Didn't you, Rodrigo?" My brother didn't respond. He just stayed there, huddled, trembling. "What do you have against her?" I asked, taking a step toward Tiago. "What did Emily do to you? What did she do to me?" He laughed, but it was a bitter laugh, full of venom. "She destroyed me, Carlos. She destroyed my life when I was 17 years old." And then he said the name I hadn't heard in years. "Raphael. My real name is Raphael." Emily turned white, absolutely white. Her legs weakened and she had to lean on the sink to keep from falling. "No," she whispered. No, it can't be." "Surprise, Raphael, because that's who he really was," said with that icy voice. "Did you think you could humiliate me in front of the entire school, get me expelled, destroy my reputation, and I would just forget? That I would just move on?" "You were stalking me!" Emily shouted, tears streaming. "You were terrorizing me!" "I loved you," he shouted back, and for the first time, the mask of calm fell. "I loved you more than anything in this world, and you treated me like a monster. You made me look like a sick person, a pervert, when all I wanted was to make you happy." "You were obsessed," I intervened. "You were stalking her, and you punished me for it," he said, composing himself, the smile returning. "So I waited. I changed my name, changed my appearance, built a new life, a perfect life, and I waited for the right moment. I waited until she trusted me, until she loved me, until your parents adored me." And then he looked at Emily with pure hatred in his eyes. "I planned to destroy the most important thing to her purity, her dignity, on her wedding day. But why Rodrigo?" I asked, still trying to understand. "What does he have to do with this?" Raphael laughed. "Because Emily was always close to you two. You were the perfect family, weren't you? So I thought, what would be the most painful way to destroy her? Have her be violated by her own brother on her wedding day, with the wedding dress still on her body." I looked at Rodrigo. "How did he force you?" I asked, my voice trembling. Rodrigo finally raised his face. It was swollen from crying so much. "The photos," he whispered. "He has photos of me. Photos I sent to a girl last year, intimate photos. He said he would send them to everyone, to my parents, to the entire family, post them on the internet. He was going to destroy my life. Unless you did this," I completed, feeling nauseous. "He sent me messages for months, Rodrigo continued, his voice breaking. Threatening me, telling me exactly what I had to do today, telling me that if I didn't do it, if I told anyone, he would end me. And I tried to resist, Carlos. I swear I tried. But he kept sending messages, showing me the photos, telling me he would make my life hell. So I made the choice for him, Raphael said, shrugging. He came to the bathroom. Emily came after him because I said he was feeling sick. I locked the door. I told Rodrigo that either he did it right there or I would spread the photos at the entire reception on the projector for everyone to see. He had planned everything, every detail. He had waited years, built an entire persona, won over my sister just to execute this twisted revenge on the most important day of her life. You're a monster, I said, barely able to control my rage. I am what she made me. He responded coldly. And now, if you'll excuse me, I have guests waiting. Rodrigo, you can go. You fulfilled your part of the deal. The photos stay with me, but I won't spread them. You're free. Rodrigo got up unsteadily and ran out of the bathroom, sobbing. Emily was destroyed, sitting on the floor now, her wedding dress stained, her body trembling. I'm going to tell everyone, I said. I'm going to destroy you. Raphael laughed. And who's going to believe you? The possessive brother who's clearly making up stories because he can't accept his sister's marriage? Good luck, Carlos. And he turned to leave the bathroom, as if nothing had happened, as if he had just won a game. But he didn't leave, because I moved. My body acted before my mind. I grabbed his arm and pulled him back, throwing him against the wall. He tried to break free, but I was stronger. I've always been stronger. You're not leaving here, I said, my voice coming out low and dangerous. Carlos, don't, Emily said from the floor, her voice weak. Don't do this. He's not worth it. But I wasn't listening. All I could see was his face, that smile, that satisfaction of having destroyed my family, of having tortured my younger brother, of having violated my sister in a way that could never be undone. I let him go, and he staggered, laughing. Empty threats, Carlos. I expected more from you. I left the bathroom. My vision was blurred, my heart pounding in my chest. The people at the party were dancing, laughing, oblivious to the nightmare that had just happened a few feet away. I looked around and saw the tables, the glasses, the wine bottles. I grabbed one, a heavy bottle of Argentine red wine. I felt the weight in my hand. I went back to the bathroom. Raphael was helping Emily get up, the mask of the concerned groom already back on his face. Still acting, Tiago, she was saying, her voice in shock. How could you? How could you have done this to me? Because you deserved it, Emily, he said quietly. You deserved to suffer what you made me suffer. That's when I came back in. He saw me, saw the bottle in my hand. For the first time, I saw fear on his face. Real fear. Carlos, he said, backing away. Carlos, wait. You waited years to do this to her? I said, walking toward him. I only need a second to make you pay. Carlos, don't! Emily screamed, but I was already raising the bottle. Raphael tried to run, tried to get past me, but I was faster. I held him by the shoulder with my free hand and raised the bottle above my head. I saw the absolute panic in his eyes and thought, this is the same panic you put in Rodrigo, the same terror you made Emily feel. And then I brought the bottle down. The sound was worse than anything I could have imagined. A crack, a crunch, the glass shattering. He fell to the floor immediately, his body collapsing like a rag doll. Blood began to spread, so much blood. Covering the white bathroom floor, staining my hand, splashing on Emily's dress. She was screaming now, screaming non-stop. I looked at my hand, at the broken bottleneck I was still holding, at the body on the floor. He wasn't moving. The bathroom door burst open. People came in, started screaming. Someone called the police. Someone tried to help him, but I knew he was dead. I had felt his skull giving way under the impact, had seen the light leaving his eyes. I had killed him. I let myself fall to my knees right there, dropping the bottle. My hands were trembling violently. My mind was blank. I couldn't process what I had just done. The police arrived within minutes. They lifted me up, handcuffed my hands behind my back. I didn't resist, didn't try to explain. What was I going to say? That he had forced my brother to violate our sister as revenge for something that happened years ago? Who would believe that? I looked at Emily before they took me away. She was huddled in the corner, trembling. covered in blood. Her wedding dress, that dress she had chosen so carefully, was ruined, stained with blood and trauma. "I'm sorry," I said, just that. "I'm sorry." I don't know if she heard me, I don't know if she understood, but that was all I could say before they took me away. The reception had turned to chaos. People running, screaming, crying, the body being covered with a tablecloth, cell phone cameras recording everything, my parents in absolute shock. And Rodrigo, I saw him. He was standing far from everyone, looking at me with an expression I'll never forget. It was guilt mixed with relief, mixed with absolute horror. They put me in the police car and took me away, and I looked out the window as we drove away, watching the estate getting smaller and smaller. The place that should have been the stage for celebration had become the stage for a nightmare. The trial was quick. 200 witnesses had seen me kill him. There was no possible defense for that. My lawyer tried to plead heat of passion, mitigating circumstances, but the prosecution argued it was premeditated murder. After all, I had left the bathroom, grabbed a weapon, the bottle, and returned. That showed intent, planning, even if it was only seconds. Emily and Rodrigo were called to testify. Rodrigo told everything, the threats, the photos, how Rafael had coerced him. But Rafael's defense, even though he was dead, he still had lawyers defending his name, argued there was no proof. The supposed threatening messages had been deleted. The photos were never found. It was Rodrigo's word against the memory of a dead man. Emily confirmed what had happened in the bathroom, but her version was distorted by the prosecution. They said she was in shock, that she had been traumatized twice. Once by what Rodrigo did, another by having to witness the murder of her own husband. The fact that Tiago was actually Rafael, the obsessed boy from her past, was treated as irrelevant. After all, he had built a new life, had become another person. That didn't justify murder. In the end, I got 4.5 years for manslaughter. It could have been worse. The judge recognized there were mitigating circumstances, even without all the evidence. But still, 4.5 years. 4.5 years away from my family, away from the life I knew. I served 3.5 years and got parole for good behavior. During that time in the detention center, I changed. I couldn't not change. You spend 3.5 years locked up thinking every day about what you did, about the sound of that skull breaking, about the blood, about your sister's screams. You change. I saw other inmates, guys who had killed for money, for drugs, for silly jealousy. And I kept thinking, am I like them? Am I a murderer? Because technically I am. I took someone's life. It doesn't matter what he had done. At the end of the day, I killed him. But at the same time, I couldn't completely regret it. And that scared me more than anything else. Because the whole rehabilitation process is based on regret, on change, on recognizing you were wrong. But I wasn't wrong. He was destroying my family. He had tortured my brother, had planned one of the cruelest things I've ever seen. What if I had done nothing? If I had let him leave that bathroom, go back to the party, continue with his life, while my sister and brother carried that trauma for the rest of their lives? These questions haunted me every night. Today, in my small apartment, trying to rebuild something, I still don't have answers. Emily doesn't talk to me anymore. She moved to another city right after the trial. I think she can't see me without remembering that day, the dress stained with blood, the body on the floor. I understand, I really do. Rodrigo was the only one who visited me in prison, once a month, religiously. He told me about the therapy he was doing, about how he was trying to move forward, about the guilt he carried because he knew that if it weren't for him, I wouldn't be there. But I always said the same thing. It wasn't his fault. It never was. What Rafael did was calculated, cruel, premeditated. He waited years, changed his entire identity, built a perfect trap, and we fell into it, all of us. But was my response the only possible one? Wasn't there another path? I could have called the police, could have exposed him publicly, could have ruined him in other ways that didn't involve taking his life. But I didn't think of any of those things at that moment. I only felt rage, pure and absolute rage. And I acted. Sometimes I wonder who I am now. The Carlos from before would never have been capable of doing what I did, but the Carlos from before had never seen what I saw, had never experienced that mixture of horror, betrayal, and fury that I felt in that bathroom. Trauma changes you. And the question is, can you live with who you've become? I still don't know the answer. Some days I wake up and I can look at myself in the mirror. Other days all I see is blood. His blood on my hands, the blood on Emily's dress, the blood on the white floor of that bathroom. But here's the truth nobody wants to hear. If I could go back in time, knowing everything I know, seeing everything I saw, I would do it again. Because Raphael didn't deserve to leave there unpunished. He didn't deserve to continue living after what he did. And maybe that makes me a monster too. Maybe that puts me on the same level as him. Or maybe it just makes me human. A human who was pushed beyond the limit and broke. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. If you made it this far and really understood what I went through, if you managed to feel a little of what I felt in that bathroom, I need to ask you something. Like this video, subscribe to Traumatic Accounts, hit the notification bell, and comment down below what time it is right now while you're listening to me, because I need to know I'm not alone in this. That someone understands that the world isn't black and white, that sometimes impossible choices transform us into things we never thought we'd be. What I know is this: the justice system punished me for what I did. Society labeled me as a murderer. My family fragmented, and a man is dead by my hands. But a child, because that's what Rodrigo still was deep down, didn't have to carry the weight of those photos being spread. Didn't have to live the rest of his life with that hanging over him. And a predator who waited years to execute the cruelest revenge I've ever seen won't do this to anyone else. So you tell me, am I the villain of this story? Or the hero? Or just another victim of a cycle of trauma that perpetuates itself until someone breaks it, even if brutally? I'll carry this for the rest of my life. The sound of that glass breaking, the screams, the blood, and the question that will never leave me in peace. Did I do what was right? Or did I just become what I was trying to destroy?